To some, marriage is a bed of roses. However, the reality is that marriage is not always a bed of roses. It can be quite challenging and requires a lot of hard work and compromise from both partners. Marriage will only become a bed of rose when your in-laws love, respect, and valued you. Emmanuel. He was not an ordinary man. He was an architect. A man who used his hands and mind to build houses, schools, churches, and homes for people in the village and nearby towns. His work was admired by all. But what made him even more loved was his calm spirit and gentle heart. Emmanuel believed in peace. He believed in kindness. He believed that life was better when people worked together and respected one another. Because of this, many people looked up to him and often came to him for advice. One day, while attending the wedding of a friend, Emmanuel met a woman who caught his eye. Her name was Emily. She wasn't the loudest in the room, nor was she trying to draw attention to herself, but something about her presence was warm and calming, like a cup of tea on a cold morning. Emily was tall, graceful, and spoke with wisdom beyond her years. She wore a simple dress, yet it shined like gold in Emmanuel's eyes. What impressed him most wasn't her beauty. It was the way she treated people. She greeted everyone with a smile, served food to elders before herself, and helped calm a crying child without anyone asking her. From that day, Emmanuel knew he wanted to know her better. They began to talk. They would meet in the village market, share roasted corn on long walks, and speak about dreams, life, and family. Emmanuel learned that Emily was the firstborn in a family of 5 children. Her father had passed away when she was just 17, and from that day, she became more than a sister. She became a second mother to her siblings. She worked hard, sometimes doing 2 or 3 jobs at a time, just to make sure her siblings went to school. Even after her mother remarried and the new home grew difficult, Emily stayed strong. She believed in family no matter how hard things became. Emmanuel admired her strength. He respected her selflessness. And most of all, he saw her heart, pure, honest, and full of love. A year later, Emmanuel asked Emily to marry him. "I may not be the richest man," he said one evening as they walked under the moonlight, "but I promise to love you with all I have, to build a home with you that will be filled with peace, laughter, and God's grace." Emily, with tears in her eyes, nodded and said, "Yes." Their wedding was small but beautiful. Friends, neighbors, and family gathered to celebrate. There was dancing, singing, and storytelling. Everyone said the same thing: this couple is special. Their love is real. After the wedding, Emmanuel built a cozy home at the edge of the village. It was surrounded by flowers, tall trees, and birds that sang every morning. Inside the house, everything spoke of unity. Pictures of the two of them, hand-painted art, and messages of faith and love written on the walls. People often said, "Their marriage is like a bed of roses." And for a long while it truly was. They woke up every morning and prayed together. They ate meals side by side. Emmanuel would surprise Emily with her favorite fruits. Emily would sing softly while preparing dinner. They respected each other. They laughed, talked, and worked as a team. But even in this joy, life wasn't perfect. You see, Emily still had a family she was responsible for. Though she was married now, she didn't forget her siblings. She would send money to her younger sister in college, help her mother pay bills, and sometimes skip buying things for herself just so her family would be comfortable. Emmanuel never stopped her. He understood. He knew what kind of woman he had married. Strong, selfless, and loyal. He would tell her, "Don't worry, my love. We will carry this burden together." Still, there were days when the pressure became too much. Emily would come home tired, sometimes in tears. Emmanuel would hold her and say, "It's okay to cry. You are not alone anymore. I am here." Together, they made their marriage work. Not by magic, but through hard work, patience, forgiveness, and daily acts of kindness. One day, Emmanuel's friend, a man named Samuel, came to visit. "My brother," Samuel said, laughing, "I see you and your wife every time I pass your house. You are always smiling. Tell me, what is the secret to a happy marriage?" Emmanuel smiled and said, "There is no secret. just understanding. Marriage is not a bed of roses every day. Sometimes there are thorns. But if two people water the plant together, it will always bloom again. Samuel nodded. Well said, my friend. You are a blessed man. And truly, Emmanuel believed he was. He was not blind to the small challenges. Sometimes they disagreed. Sometimes they argued. But they never allowed anger to sleep with them. They always talked things out. They always reminded each other why they chose love in the first place. One evening, while sitting on the veranda, Emily turned to Emmanuel and said, "You know, I used to think that marriage was all about happiness. But I've learned that it's more about choosing to love each other every day, even when things are not easy." Emmanuel held her hand and replied, "That's what makes it beautiful. We choose each other again and again." Yes, the village still called their marriage a bed of roses. But only Emmanuel and Emily knew the truth behind those words. It was not easy. It was not perfect. But it was strong because they built it on love, respect, and deep friendship. And so, their journey as husband and wife continued. Two hearts, one home, and a promise to face whatever life brought, hand in hand. Little did they know a test was coming. A test that would challenge everything they had built. A storm that would teach them that even in the most beautiful garden, weeds can grow if not watched carefully. But for now, their home was at peace. And peace, they believed, was the most precious gift of all. It was a bright morning in early March. Birds chirped cheerfully outside Emmanuel and Emily's home, and the sweet smell of fried plantain filled the kitchen. Emily was preparing breakfast while Emmanuel sat at the dining table reading the local newspaper. Everything seemed calm and perfect, just like it always had been. But that day, Emily had something on her mind, something she had been thinking about for weeks. After serving breakfast, she sat down quietly across from her husband and said, "Emmanuel, can I speak with you?" Emmanuel looked up and smiled. "Of course, my love. What is it?" She took a deep breath and said, "It's about my younger brother, Daniel." Emmanuel's smile faded slightly. He folded the newspaper and gave her his full attention. "He's 24 now," she continued, "and he's really struggling. After Daddy died, you know I've been doing my best to help the family. Daniel tried finding work, but things haven't worked out. He wants to go back to school and study medicine. I've been thinking, maybe we could let him come live with us for a while." Emmanuel sat silently for a moment, thinking. He had met Daniel a few times before. The young man was full of energy, always talking about big dreams. But Emmanuel also remembered that Daniel was a little stubborn and impatient. Still, he looked at Emily and saw the concern in her eyes. He knew how much she loved her family. It was one of the reasons he had fallen in love with her in the first place. "I understand," Emmanuel said softly. "If it will give him a chance to do better with his life, then he can come. We will support him, but we must also set boundaries. This is our home, and peace must remain." Emily smiled with relief and reached across the table to hold his hand. "Thank you, my love. Thank you so much." That evening, Emily called Daniel. When he heard the news, he was overjoyed. "Ah, thank you, sister. Please thank your husband for me. I will not disappoint you." 2 weeks later, Daniel arrived with a small travel bag and a wide smile on his face. Emmanuel and Emily welcomed him warmly. They gave him the guest room, helped him settle in, and made sure he felt like a part of the family. Emmanuel even took time off work to help Daniel register for his pre-medical program at a nearby college. He bought him textbooks, clothes, and a new phone. Daniel couldn't stop smiling. "Bro, Emmanuel, you're too much," he would often say. "I'm really lucky to have you." For the first few weeks, everything went smoothly. Daniel woke up early, went to class, returned home, helped with chores, and even prayed with them during evening devotion. Emily was happy. Emmanuel felt peaceful. They believed that truly they had done something good. But slowly, things began to change. Daniel started coming home late. Sometimes he would skip dinner without saying anything. Other times, he would stay locked in his room, talking loudly on the phone with his friends. Emmanuel noticed, but he remained calm. He believed in patience. One afternoon, Emmanuel returned home early from work. As he walked into the compound, he saw Daniel lounging on the veranda, wearing one of his expensive shirts. "Good afternoon, bro Emmanuel," Daniel said, grinning. Emmanuel looked at the shirt but said nothing. He simply greeted him and went inside. That evening, he told Emily, "Daniel was wearing one of my best shirts today. Please talk to him about that." Emily nodded. She spoke with Daniel gently, reminding him to ask before using other people's belongings. Daniel laughed it off and said, "Ah, sorry. I just liked the shirt. I'll be more careful next time." But the behavior continued. One day, Daniel asked Emmanuel if he could borrow the car to attend a party. Emmanuel said, "No, Daniel. That car is for important trips. You can take public transport." Daniel frowned. "Even Peter's brother-in-law lets him drive his car anytime he wants," he muttered. "What did you say?" Emmanuel asked. "Nothing," Daniel replied and stormed off. From that day, his behavior grew worse. He stopped greeting Emmanuel properly. He would ignore simple house rules. Sometimes, he would even complain about the food Emily cooked, saying it was not special enough. Emily was shocked. "Daniel," she said one evening, "this is not how you behave in someone else's home, especially the home of your sister and her husband." Daniel shrugged. "I'm not a child. I just want to be treated like family." Emmanuel remained patient, though his heart was growing heavy. The peace in his home, which he had worked so hard to build, was slowly being disturbed. One evening, Emmanuel invited Daniel for a private talk. "Daniel," he said, "when you came here, I welcomed you as a brother. I've tried to support you in every way I can. But lately, you have changed. You are becoming disrespectful. What is happening?" Daniel scoffed. "Maybe I just expected more. I see how other sisters' husbands treat their in-laws. They give them cars, money, gifts. I don't see that here. You have, but you're still holding back." Emmanuel was stunned. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. He finally replied, "Kindness is not something you demand. It is something you appreciate. If you think gifts are the measure of love, then you are missing the lesson of life." He stood and walked away, leaving Daniel silent. That night, Emmanuel and Emily sat in their bedroom quietly. "I'm sorry," Emily said. "I didn't know he would become like this." "It's not your fault," Emmanuel replied. "You did it from a good heart. But we must protect our peace." Emily nodded, tears in her eyes. "Then I will talk to him. If he doesn't change, he cannot stay here." The next day, Emily spoke to her brother firmly. "Daniel, this home welcomed you with love, but you have returned it with pride and disrespect. I cannot allow you to destroy what Emmanuel and I have built. You have to leave." Daniel looked shocked. "What? You're choosing him over me?" "I'm choosing peace," she said. "I'm choosing the man who stood by me, helped you, and treated you like a brother." Daniel packed his things in silence and left the house that evening. For the first time in weeks, the home felt calm again. As Emmanuel sat with Emily on the porch later that night, he looked at her and said, "You are strong. Thank you." Emily held his hand and said, "I promised to build this home with you. That means protecting it too." And though the wound was still fresh, they knew they had done the right thing. Little did they know, this chapter was not yet over. After Daniel left their home, peace slowly returned to Emmanuel and Emily's life. The house that once felt heavy with tension became warm and quiet again. The dining table no longer held awkward silence. The air was clear, the laughter returned, and the couple found joy in the little things once more. It wasn't easy for Emily. Daniel was her younger brother, her own flesh and blood. She had raised him like a son. When their father died, she stepped into the role of a guardian. Seeing Daniel grow up with so much potential had filled her with pride. But his behavior in their home had shocked and disappointed her deeply. Sometimes at night, she would sit quietly, remembering the times she and Daniel would walk together to fetch water, or when he would run to her, holding his school report card, excited to show her good grades. The Daniel she had known back then was respectful, loving, and full of dreams. What changed him? She often wondered. Emmanuel never made her feel guilty. He did not complain. Instead, he reassured her. You did your best, he would say. But sometimes, people must learn their own lessons in their own time. Emily felt blessed to have Emmanuel. His patience and strength during the difficult days with Daniel had shown her again why she had married him. He had not shouted. He had not fought. He had chosen peace even in the face of disrespect. That, to her, was the sign of a true man. Weeks passed. Emily spoke to her mother over the phone but avoided talking much about Daniel. She didn't want to stir any more pain. But the silence between her and Daniel continued. No calls, no texts. Only the memory of his angry face as he packed his bag and walked out of their home. One afternoon, while working in her small garden, Emily's phone rang. It was her younger sister, Anita. Emily, she said, have you heard what Daniel has been telling people? Emily wiped her hands and sat down. What is he saying? He's been complaining to his friends, saying that you and your husband are selfish, that you refused to help him when he needed it, that you sent him out like a stranger. Emily felt her heart drop. Anita continued. He said you're under your husband's control, that you chose a man over your own family. Emily was quiet for a long time. Then she said softly, thank you for telling me. After the call, she sat alone, the sun casting shadows over her garden. Her heart felt heavy again. Not just because of the words, but because they came from someone she loved dearly. That evening, she told Emmanuel. I am not angry, he said gently, but I am sad for him. If only he could see that love is not shown through loud words or gifts. It is shown through sacrifice, respect, and humility. Emily nodded. I still don't understand what went wrong. He was never like this. Maybe he let jealousy into his heart, Emmanuel said. Maybe he is listening to the wrong people. Emily stared at him. Do you think Peter influenced him? Emmanuel shrugged. He mentioned Peter often, comparing, measuring. That kind of thinking only brings trouble. Emily sighed. Do you think we made a mistake bringing him here? No, Emmanuel said firmly. We did what was right. We opened our home. We gave him love. His actions are not our failure. Emily reached out and held his hand. Thank you for standing by me. He smiled. Always. Days turned into weeks. Then one Saturday morning, something unexpected happened. There was a knock at the door. Emily opened it and froze. Standing in front of her was Daniel. Behind him were their mother and Emmanuel's parents. Daniel looked down, ashamed. Their mother, Mama Felicia, held his hand tightly, as if she feared he might run away. Can we come in? Mama Felicia asked softly. Emily stepped aside. Emmanuel rose from the couch, surprised to see the visitors. He greeted them politely and offered them seats. For a few moments, silence filled the room. Then Daniel's voice broke the quiet. Brother Emmanuel, Sister Emily, I came to say I'm sorry. He looked up. His eyes were red, as if he had not slept well in days. I was wrong. I was foolish. I said things I should never have said. I disrespected you both. I took your kindness for granted. Tears filled Emily's eyes. Mama Felicia spoke next. We came to beg. As a mother, my heart has been heavy. When Daniel told us everything, I was ashamed. We didn't raise him to behave like that. Emmanuel's father added, We are sorry, son. You showed him love, and he returned it with pride. Emmanuel listened quietly. Then he asked Daniel, But why? Why did you treat us that way? Daniel hesitated, then answered, It was Peter. He kept telling me stories about how his sister's husband treats him, buys him phones, lets him drive his car, sends him on vacations. I started thinking, why isn't my sister's husband doing the same for me? I let that thought grow, and it turned to anger. He paused, his voice trembling. I forgot all the things you had already done for me. The school, the books, the clothes. I was blind. Emmanuel nodded slowly. So, you allowed another man's life to blind you from seeing the blessings in your own? Daniel dropped his head in shame. Yes. There was another long silence. Emily spoke. Daniel, I loved you like my own child. I fought for you. I fed you. I prayed for you. and you repaid me with pain. Do you know how much that hurt me? I know, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Emmanuel looked at the young man and said, Daniel, I forgive you. Daniel's head shot up in surprise. But, Emmanuel continued, you cannot live with us again. Daniel blinked. What? Forgiveness does not mean forgetting the lesson. This home is my sacred place, a place of peace. I cannot allow anything to disturb that again. Daniel nodded slowly. I understand. Emmanuel's voice softened. I will still help you, when and how I can, but from a distance. Mama Felicia sighed in relief. Thank you, my son. You have a good heart. Emmanuel shook his head. No, I just know what peace costs, and I won't lose it again. The family stayed for a while, talking and sharing a meal. Before they left, Daniel hugged Emily tightly. I'm sorry, he said again. I love you, she replied. But love must come with respect. Always remember that. That night, as Emmanuel and Emily sat together watching the stars, she said, maybe marriage really is a garden. You plant love and it blooms. But if you are not careful, weeds like pride and jealousy will grow. Emmanuel nodded. Yes, and it takes both of us to keep the garden clean. She leaned on his shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around her. Their house had seen joy, sorrow, and healing. But through it all, one thing remained, their unshakable bond. And that, they believed, was what made their love stronger than ever before. Weeks passed after Daniel's visit. Life in Emmanuel and Emily's home returned to a calm and peaceful rhythm. Though Daniel's absence still lingered in Emily's heart, the peace in her marriage helped her heal from the pain. One warm Sunday afternoon, Emmanuel and Emily were sitting on their front porch, sipping fresh palm wine and watching neighborhood children run and laugh under the trees. Do you ever think about Daniel? Emmanuel asked gently. Emily nodded. Yes, every day. But I don't carry the pain anymore. I've accepted what happened. I just hope he's learning from it. Emmanuel smiled faintly. Sometimes, the hardest lessons come from the people closest to us. Emily nodded again. But they're the ones we remember the most. That evening, Emmanuel received a call from his old friend, Mr. Adebayo, who had invited them to speak at a couples seminar the next weekend. The topic, peace in the midst of pressure. At first, Emmanuel was unsure. I'm not a public speaker, he told Emily. But Emily smiled. You're a man of wisdom. That's all you need. Just share what we've lived through. Maybe it will help someone else. He agreed. The next Saturday, they drove to the seminar hall, held at a local community center. The room was full, young couples, old couples, and even some engaged lovers looking for guidance. When it was their turn to speak, Emmanuel and Emily walked to the front together, holding hands. Emmanuel began, Good morning. My name is Emmanuel, and this is my wife, Emily. We've been married for 6 years. In those years, we have seen peace, and we have seen pressure. Emily continued, Many people believe that marriage is always a bed of roses, but even roses have thorns. Marriage is beautiful, but it takes two people who are ready to water the garden every day, through storms, through sunshine, and even through the silence. They shared their story, how they welcomed Daniel, how things went wrong, and how love, patience, and respect helped them through. The audience listened in silence, some nodding, others with tears in their eyes. A young woman raised her hand and asked, How did you know when it was time to ask your brother to leave? Emily replied, When I realized his presence was bringing division instead of unity. A home must be a place of peace. If someone, even family, begins to threaten that peace, something must change. A man asked Emmanuel, Weren't you angry? Didn't you want to shout or send him away immediately? Emmanuel chuckled softly. Of course I felt anger, but shouting only adds fire to fire. I had to be the calm in the storm, not the wind. Peace is a choice, and sometimes silence is louder than shouting. The room burst into quiet applause. After the seminar, several couples came to thank them. Your story has helped us more than you know, one man said. Another woman held Emily's hand and said, You're very strong. I hope I can be like you in my own home. That night, Emmanuel and Emily returned home feeling fulfilled. They had turned their pain into a message. Their wounds had healed into wisdom. The next morning, Emmanuel got a call from Daniel. He hadn't heard from him since the apology weeks ago. "Brother Emmanuel," Daniel said, his voice soft. "Can I come and see you?" "Just you." Emmanuel agreed. Later that day, Daniel arrived. He was dressed more modestly than usual. No flashy clothes, no loud cologne. He looked different, quieter, more humble. "Sit," Emmanuel offered. They sat under the mango tree in the compound, just the two of them. "I wanted to thank you," Daniel said, "for forgiving me." Emmanuel nodded. "You're welcome." Daniel paused. "After I left, I went to stay with Peter. I thought he had it all. But after 2 weeks, I saw things I didn't expect. His sister's husband gives him money, yes, but with control. He talks down on him, treats him like a servant. He even slapped him once during an argument." Emmanuel raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "Yes," Daniel said. "And that's when I realized I was comparing my blessings to someone else's curse." He looked Emmanuel in the eye. "You treated me like a brother, with dignity. You helped me without showing off. I was blind." Emmanuel smiled. "Sometimes we only see clearly after we fall." Daniel nodded. "I've started working part-time at a pharmacy. I've also applied for a scholarship program. I want to earn what I get now, not take what I don't deserve." "That's good," Emmanuel said. "I'm proud of you." Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "This isn't much," he said, "but I saved up to buy Emily a thank you gift. I know it can't repay everything, but it's a start." Emmanuel took the envelope and said, "Thank you. That means a lot." Before Daniel left, Emmanuel stood and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I believe in you. Keep going." Daniel smiled. "I won't let you down again." That evening, Emily returned home from a women's fellowship and found the envelope on the table. Inside was a simple necklace with a note that read, "For the sister who became a mother, and the mother who taught me love. I'm sorry, and thank you." "Daniel." Emily stood silently, touched. "He's growing," she said softly. Emmanuel nodded. "Yes, and sometimes growth only comes after pain." From that day forward, Daniel called regularly. He never asked for money again, only shared updates and asked for advice. Slowly, the broken bridge between them was rebuilt, not with grand gestures, but with steady steps and honest words. One Saturday, Emmanuel and Emily were walking through the market when they met an elderly couple selling palm oil. The woman, bent with age, looked at them and said, "You two walk like one soul." Emmanuel smiled. "It took years, but yes, we are learning to walk as one." The old man laughed. "Keep watering that love. Even roses bloom better with care." As they walked home, Emily said, "Do you think our story will help Daniel one day, when he gets married?" Emmanuel nodded. "I believe it already has." Marriage, they had learned, was not a prize to be won. It was a journey to be walked with forgiveness in one hand and love in the other. And though the road had not been perfect, their feet were steady, their hearts united. Because in the end, peace wasn't about never having problems. It was about standing together even when the storm came knocking. Months passed like flowing water. The dry season had come and gone, and the rainy season now painted the land with green leaves and blooming flowers. It felt like the world itself was healing, growing, just as Emmanuel and Emily had done in their hearts. Their marriage had become even stronger. The struggles they had faced had drawn them closer together. They laughed more, talked more deeply, and prayed more sincerely. Their bond was now like a tree with deep roots, unshaken by the winds that once threatened to break it. One Saturday morning, while Emily was watering the flowers in the small garden at the front of the house, Emmanuel came out holding a newspaper and a cup of tea. "You won't believe this," he said with a smile, handing her the paper. Emily wiped her hands and took the paper. Her eyes widened when she saw the headline on one of the pages. "Young man wins international medical scholarship. There, smiling brightly in a photo, was Daniel. Emmanuel laughed. He did it. Emily sat down on the garden bench, speechless. She read the short article. Daniel had won a scholarship to study medicine in Canada. He was chosen out of hundreds of applicants across the country. He didn't even tell us he applied again, Emily said, still in awe. Emmanuel nodded. That's because this time he wanted to make it on his own. And he did. They sat in silence for a while, both feeling a mix of pride and joy. Later that afternoon, their phones rang almost at the same time. It was Daniel calling Emily, and, "Sister," Daniel shouted happily. "Did you see the news?" "I did," Emily said, smiling from ear to ear. "I'm so proud of you. I wouldn't be here without you," he said. "Without both of you." At the same time, Emmanuel was talking with Mama Felicia. She was crying tears of joy. "My son, thank you. Thank you for not turning your back on him. I don't know how many men would have handled things the way you did." Emmanuel smiled softly. "It's God's grace, Mama. That's all." Daniel came to visit that weekend. He brought a small cake and a handwritten letter. "I wanted to say goodbye in person," he said. "I'll be leaving for Canada in 2 weeks." Emily hugged him tightly, her eyes glistening with emotion. "You're going to do great things." Emmanuel shook his hand firmly. "And remember, medicine is not just about healing bodies. It's also about serving with humility." "I won't forget," Daniel promised. They sat together and shared the cake, laughing and sharing stories. For the first time in a long while, the house felt full, not just of people but of joy, unity, and forgiveness. Later that night, after Daniel had left, Emmanuel and Emily sat together under the stars, just like they often did. "You know," Emily said, "I never thought our marriage would go through something like that. And yet, here we are, stronger than ever." Emmanuel reached for her hand. "That's because we didn't let the storm break us. We bent, we swayed, but we stood together." Emily rested her head on his shoulder. "You were my anchor, and you were my peace," he said, his mother calling Emmanuel. Emily answered first. A year passed. Daniel was doing well in school. He called regularly, and sometimes he even sent little gifts. Framed photos, postcards, and once, a stethoscope with a note. "One day, this will help me save lives." Mama Felicia often came to visit and even helped Emily in the kitchen when she stayed over. Emmanuel's parents became more involved, too, inviting them for Sunday lunches and family gatherings. One Sunday, after church, Emmanuel and Emily hosted a small group of young married couples at their home. It had become a monthly tradition. They called it Marriage Circle. Everyone sat in a circle under the mango tree, drinking juice and sharing stories. A newlywed named David spoke up. "We've been married 6 months, and I thought it would be all romance and candlelight, but it's been hard. We argue about little things. I feel like I'm failing." Emily smiled warmly. "You're not failing. You're adjusting. You're learning each other. And that takes time." Emmanuel added, "Marriage is like a field. If you don't water it, weeds will grow. You have to be intentional. Every single day." Another couple shared how in-laws were causing problems between them. Emily nodded. "I understand that well, but you must always protect your peace. Respect your family, yes, but your home must come first." Everyone listened closely. The couple's wisdom, born from experience, touched hearts that day. When the gathering ended, one woman lingered behind. She approached Emily with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said. "I was thinking of walking away from my marriage, but today I heard hope. Thank you for being honest, for showing that healing is possible." Emily hugged her gently. "It's never easy, but it's always worth fighting for." As the sun began to set, Emmanuel and Emily cleaned up together. While sweeping the compound, Emmanuel paused and looked around. "Our home has become more than just 4 walls," he said. "It's a place where stories are healed, where love is planted." Emily smiled. "I never imagined our pain would turn into purpose. And yet," Emmanuel said, "here we are." That night, while writing in her journal, Emily wrote, To some, marriage is a bed of roses, but roses have thorns. Still, with patience and love, even thorns can teach us something. They remind us that beauty and pain often live side by side, and the most beautiful flowers are the ones that survived the storms. A few years later, Daniel became Dr. Daniel Okechukwu. He returned home after his studies and began working at a local hospital, giving back to his community. His journey inspired many, especially young people who had given up hope. At his welcome dinner, he stood up to speak. "I once thought life owed me everything," he said. "But now I know gratitude is the key, and love without respect is just noise. My sister and her husband taught me that." He turned to Emmanuel and Emily, who sat at the center table, smiling with pride. "You were the first people to believe in me. I'm standing here today because you chose patience over pride. Thank you." The room clapped, but Emmanuel simply nodded. "We thank God," he said. Later that evening, Daniel pulled Emily aside and handed her a small gift box. Inside was a gold brooch shaped like a rose. "It's a symbol," he said. "You showed me that love, even when it hurts, can still bloom." Emily held back tears. "Thank you, Daniel. You've made me proud." As the years went on, Emmanuel and Emily continued growing, not just as husband and wife, but as mentors and pillars in their community. Their story, once marked by pain and betrayal, was now one of grace, forgiveness, and strength. Their marriage, like a well-tended garden, blossomed, and though it had once been pricked by thorns, it had become what so many only dream of, a true bed of roses.